Let us start with Unit 3, that is accounting for GST transaction. Till now, we come to know what is accounting, how the GST is implemented in accounting. Now, we have to study in Unit 3 what is accounting of GST transaction. So, first of all, we have to know what is accounting and what is GST. So, in Unit 1 and Unit 2, we have already discussed what is GST, goods and service tax. In each and every product, directly or indirectly, we have to pay a certain amount of money as a tax, which will go to the government for the development purpose, for the economic development. Now, here we have to study in Unit 3 what accounting for GST transaction. See, in a business, every day, different type of transactions, different number of transactions takes place in every day. All the transactions may not be GST transactions. So here, first of all, we have to know what is GST transaction. Transactions is nothing. The give and take policy is known as the transaction. In a business, for money, we are selling the goods and we are purchasing the goods, that is also through money. So this give and take policy in the mode of money, cash, that is known as transaction in business in simple word. Here we have to study not only the small transactions, not only the transactions, but also the GST transactions. The word GST is there for the transactions. That means all those transactions we have to consider where the GST is applicable. Not all the transactions. More and more, many more transactions may take place during a time, during a period in any of the business, but only those transactions will be considered which are applicable, which has applied the GST, goods and service tax, where the tax is already applicable. All the transactions does not include the GST. The GST is applicable only for those transactions where in which form the GST is already got registered. When the GST registration is there, then whatever the transactions takes place, it comes under the GST transactions. So for that purpose, first of all, number one, we have to learn that the GST registration number should be there for that type of business. So that GST registration number, if it is there, then it will be considered as GST registration transactions. GST registered, that means GST transactions. Now we have to study over here what the accounting for GST transaction. GST transactions now we come to know. Now the accounting. What is accounting? Accounting is nothing but, by the way, the maintaining, the recording, the classifying, the analyzing the transaction in such a way so that we will get the total GST at the end of a particular period of time. So that is known as what? GST transactions accounting. How to maintain the accounting for GST transactions. How to maintain? So maintaining the accounts, first of all, we have to record the transactions properly. So here we have to follow the scientific way of maintaining the accounts. So we have to maintain the account scientific way systematically so that we can analyze the data accounting transactions, GST transactions properly to find out the ultimate GST payable during a particular period of time, or charge the GST in different product, or classifying the GST according to the product. So these are the different accounting procedures we have to maintain for GST transactions. So what are the procedures? What are the benefits for keeping the GST transactions? For maintaining the accounting for GST transactions, we have to study here. So what we need to study here? What are the key factors for accounting of GST transactions? Secondly, what are the benefits of GST transactions, keeping the accounts in GST transactions, as well as the features, the characteristics, and ultimately the result of the report which we have to maintain under the accounting of GST transactions. So this is all about the GST transactions which we are going to study now one by one. The first of all, let us go for the introductory portion of the GST transactions under the accounting of GST registration. So let us see what is GST transactions accounting. Accounting of GST transactions. If you go through it, you come to know a GST accounting transaction involves, as I already told you, it involves recording of business activities that are subject to GST, not all the transactions, such as the sale or purchase of taxable goods. Again, there is another word that is taxable goods, okay, and services. So these transactions not only affect the regular financial accounts, but also include the calculations, collections, and payment of GST to the government. So that means this accounting, the entire process of accounting of GST transactions includes what? Not only the recording. Recording is the first part which we have to record. Only the GST related transactions we have to record. Number 1 point, key point. Number 2 point is what? It should involve the sales and purchase of the taxable goods. And the most important point is what? What it includes? It includes the calculations, collections. Remember these things: calculations, collections, and payment of GST to the government. Collecting the GST. What is the main purpose of collecting the GST? GST we need to collect for what purpose? For the developmental purpose. As I already mentioned you, this never goes to the businessman, neither goes to the industry, nor goes to the company, nor to the neither to the individual person. So whatever the extra amount of money taken for GST for each and every transactions, then what happened? Those GST transactions, those portion of the GST, that amount of the GST will go to the government. So it is very, very necessary for each and every businessman to calculate the portion of the GST separately so that that amount of money they can transfer to the government for the better development of the society. The government always utilize these goods and service tax for the development of the society, development of the state, development of the country. So, for that purpose, whatever the GST collected by the GST registered firm, they have to first of all calculate the amount. Secondly, collecting the amount. And thirdly, whatever the total amount of money calculated by the organizations, they have to send it to the government. So, sending the government, there are two procedures. First of all, in most of the cases for indirect taxes, directly the amount will go to the government. But in certain cases, we have to calculate the amount, and after that, the deductions will take place from our account maintained by the businessman, whatever the accounts. From there, they have to calculate the GST at the end of the financial year, and after calculating that amount of money will go to the government. So, collection and payment of GST together with the calculation is the prime factor what we have to do under the accounting for GST transactions. So please remember these three different terms. This is all about the introduction of the accounting for GST transactions. Hope you are clear about these terms one by one. So let us see the next. What are the key components of the GST transactions? Now see, let us see. These transactions typically occur during the sales and purchase, as we have already discussed, of goods and services, and required businesses to account for two things. Key components, two things are there. One is input GST, another is output GST. So let us see, in a business, two type of transactions always takes place. One is purchases, another is sales. Apart from services, because services is a different factor. But here in case of the physical goods, two transactions takes place. One is purchasing, goods coming inside, we are paying the money for that. Another is selling the commodities to the outside market, the customers. So in that case, we will receive the money. That means one is payment of money, another is receiving of money. The GST always takes place where? In case of either on sales or in case of purchase. That means the goods which we purchase or the goods which we sold out, the GST is already added there. We are supposed to pay the GST or we are supposed to receive the GST in the form of sales or purchase. The basic key factor of collecting the GST is what you know. The key components, two components are there. One is input GST, another is output GST. Now you have to know what is input GST, what is output GST. Input means you are paid tax for the purchases. Purchases, input, it comes to our hand. The goods are coming to our hand. Services comes to our hand. So when goods and services comes to our hand, it is known as input, inward. Word generally we use inward, another is outward. So it is related with the inward goods. Input GST means inward goods. Remember that. Output GST means outward goods. So that's why in case of the input GST, tax always paid on the purchase of goods and services, claimed as a credit, which can be claimed as a credit. This is all about input GST. And in case of the output GST, it always relates with the sales of a goods when goods goes out from our hand, goes out, which is known as outward. As I told you already, this is inward, this is outward. So here the tax is collected on sales of the revenue generating activities, which is payable to the government. Once we sell the commodity in the outside market to the customers, whatever the amount of money we received, it always includes our GST. And that we are supposed to pay to the government, and calculation of that amount of money comes under the GST calculation. GST transactions accounting. In accounting, only these two key factors we have to consider. One is input GST, another is output GST. These two factors, key factors we have to consider at the time of preparing the accounting under the GST transactions. Fine. So this is the key factors of GST transactions. See the features of GST transactions. What are the characteristics? Characteristics of GST transactions. So there are different characteristics of GST transactions. The key characteristic, the main characteristics are every taxable transactions must properly account for input GST. GST paid on purchase as well as the GST collected on sale. That means taxable transaction must be properly accounted for input GST. That means we have to clearly categorize the GST transactions for the purpose of accounting. That means how much GST we are receiving, how much GST we are paying. At the time of input GST, we are supposed to pay the amount of money. At the time of output GST, we are supposed to receive the money. So that the transactions which takes place for the sales and the purchase, that has to be very clearly, very properly maintained in the accounts to calculate the GST. That is the prime characteristics. That is known as what? Recording. After recording only we can classify properly. So here the recording, classification, analyzing, interpretation, everything comes. So first stage is what? Recording in the proper manner, proper accounting. Secondly, businesses are required to maintain accurate record of these transactions to ensure correct filing of GST return, claim, input, tax, credit, and comply with tax regulation. First point, recording. Second point, what we got? Business are required to maintain accurate records. That means it is also relates with the recording on. Not only recording, here it has been said that they are giving the more stress on a word which is known as accurate, perfect result. Our transactions also has to be perfect. That means the data which we are included there, that should be accurate. Otherwise, we will not get the proper, appropriate result of the GST. So that's why this accurate record is very, very necessary. For what purpose? To ensure that the correct filing of GST returns takes place. Without the accurate return, the correct filing is not possible. To get the correct result, we need the accurate record. So the main features, the second main important feature is what? Recording the GST in a correct manner. Next, the third one, proper GST accounting helps in avoiding what? Penalties, ensuring transparency, and maintaining financial accuracy in business operation. So here we got three basic important terms. In these characteristics under the third point, we get three basic terms which you have to remember for the purpose of features or characteristics of GST. What are the three things we get? Number one, proper accounting. That means accurate calculation of the GST transactions accounting is why necessary? It is as because of avoiding the penalties. See, nowadays, if a person, if a firm, if a company is unable to pay the tax or they are avoiding the tax, though they are registered under the GST registration, then the government always implies on penalty, which they are bound to pay. Otherwise, their registration will be cancelled. So, in that case, the penalties, if they do not keep the accurate record, if they do not maintain the accurate records, then what will happen? There may be a chances of penalties. So to avoid these penalties, definitely GST transaction accounting is mandatory to do. And it helps us to avoid the penalties, first thing. Secondly, ensuring transparency. In case of maintaining the accurate transactions, transparency should be there. Everything should be visible by everyone. You should not hide anything. In case of the GST, should not hide anything. Otherwise, again, the penalty, the word will come. So that's why it is mandatory that transparency should be there in case of the accountants accounting, because only the transparent data can provide the accurate result of the accounting transaction. Financial statements, what we need to prepare under the accounting, that we will get the accurate picture only if we record the proper accounting information. As we put proper accounting information, then only the outcome will be accurate. So transparency should be there. Everybody should know what is the transactions, from where it comes, how it is treated. Everything should be transparent for everybody. And maintaining the financial accuracy in business operation. It is also mandatory for what purpose? Maintaining the financial accuracy. So just now I have mentioned one term, financial statement. For a business to run a business, to expand a business for day-to-day activities and continuation of the business, it is most and most essential to find out the accurate financial result, which will be possible only through the financial statement, analysis of financial statement. And financial statement again depends on what? Accurate records keeping. And again, this accurate record keeping depends on the proper GST record. So that is why it is interrelated. With one transaction to another transaction is related. With one entry, the another entry is related. It is posting of entries from the recording till the reporting. Two things are there, recording as well as reporting. In between that, we have to prepare all the financial statements. So to prepare, to record, to get a perfect result of the financial transactions, we need to have accurate financial transactions only through the transparent data, only through the proper record, only through the scientifically maintaining transactions. So these are the basic key things, these are the features and characteristics of GST transactions. Why it is required, where it is required, how it helps. So these are the characteristics as well as features of the GST transaction.